Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome to session 2 of Agribusiness Development and the Value Chain Concept. Before we go any further, can I have a volunteer for someone to say a word of prayer for this afternoon session? Would anybody be willing to do that for me, please?
Good night.
Good night. Thank
so
you.
God, Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this another day that you have made, where we would be able to give worship and praise unto you in whatever we do. I pray, oh God, that as we about to have class, I pray that whatever is said and done today would be put into practice and we would be able to understand it so that we would be able to exercise everything that we have learned. Guide us and protect us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much. Shafika, did I get your name right?
Yes, please.
Okay, good, great. So ladies, as I said, welcome. Last session, we looked at the agribusiness, and this session and the other session, we are going to be looking at the business part of it, the business development concept as it pertains to agribusiness. But before we do that, we have some fun things looking forward to. I'm not sure if Fiona and Angeline, if they are on as yet.
Excuse me. Fiona sent me a message. Sorry, I received a message from Fiona. She said she might be a little late, so she's asking, well, maybe not a little late, so she's asking if it's possible for her to do her presentation at the end of the session.
Okay, no problem. Once we have time. The thing is that we have such a mouthful today. So we will see how best we can put her in. We will try. Ladies, I would probably, if we get to 8 o'clock and if we are completed by then you will just give me 5 minutes to give Fiona an opportunity to share her end of feedback. But I'm not sure if Angeline is on.
I am here.
Okay.
But
all right, great.
It's a big but. I wrote a poem today to say, and I just realized I forgot it at work.
Okay. All right.
Disappointing.
Okay, so all right then. All right, ladies. So we will see if we get Fiona at the end, and Angeline, if by chance, if you feel like jumping, or you can share your poem next session. That's okay?
Yes, that will be brilliant. Thank you.
All right, good, great. Things like these happen. We just need to adjust. All right. So value chain, agribusiness, we're gonna be looking at the business end of agribusiness. Shirley, Francis, before I forget, I made a promise to you to do some research for you. And just before we go further, and I completely forget, Shirley, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, good. So I did the research for you, and the company's name, I found them through Agribusiness Society of the University of the West Indies, of which I'm a member, and you can feel free to join, ladies. It's an open group. The company's name is Southern Chemicals and Agriculture Supplies Limited. I would put it in the chat for persons who are interested in looking at company. Okay, so let me just put it in the chat before we start, and I forget. Southern Chemical Agricultural Supplies Limited. If you go there, they have a lot of supplies, from seedling trays to bushwalkers, to chemicals, to name it. There's a lot of information there on their site, so you can check them out. And as I said, I found them on the Agribusiness Society of the University of the West Indies. You can check their Facebook page as well, or their Instagram. All right, good. All right. Did I know I don't think I had made any other promises. Right, good. So we can continue today's session. Latoya, next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No problem. No problem at all. You're welcome. Good. So today we're gonna look at leveraging tools for agribusiness development, and we're gonna give you an opportunity to ask questions and answers. And our closing today, I hope that is going to be Fiona is going to bless us with whatever she had planned for us in terms of her recap. I'm looking forward to that as well. Good. Next slide, sorry. Good. Today, we looked at agribusiness and the value chain concepts and impacts. Fiona will give us a recap. Just to say, because of the fact that over 72% of you said that you did not have any official training or any formal training in agriculture, I wanted to make sure that we have an idea or had an idea of what those concepts were as it pertains to agribusiness and value chain and how it affects business development going forward. So this afternoon, we're going to be looking at leveraging tools for agribusiness growth and development. It's going to be a bit of a mouthful. There are some activities, some that you will do together, and some that you will get an opportunity to do by yourself, or you can probably, because you have this WhatsApp group, that you can probably work on together. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into this afternoon session. Good. Learning outcomes, we covered those last session. Just to say, we're going to explore the skills in leveraging business tools for agribusiness development. Good. So our first activity, in 60 seconds, I took the opportunity to find 5 words that we're going to be dealing with today. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to see if you can unscramble these words. If you need help with any of them in terms of prompts, I would see what I can do to help you. So first activity for today, ladies, unscramble these 5 words in 60 seconds. Latoya, can you time for me, please? Thanks.
It's a go.
All right. Good. Good evening to all those that's coming in now. Welcome. We are now on unscrambling these words in 60 seconds. Anybody want help? Anybody want any? Hi.
3, 2, 1. Time is up.
Time's up. All right, let's go. Anybody want to share their answers? They were easy, right?
I got the first 3.
Okay,
and I
so
think the last one, I think the business ideas, business model, niche.
Good, so you got those 3, so the others 2 should be a little bit easier. Anybody else want to help? The last 2. Are we having a challenge with the last 2? Okay, so let me give you a prop. So basically, the 4th one, it's a 1-page document. That's the best I can do in terms of how I can help for props. It's a 1-page document. It's something that gives you a synopsis. Anybody want to try? And the last one is basically the driver, one of the drivers for agribusiness development. So can Anybody want to now take a try at all 5?
I'm currently driving, so I'm trying to get a glance of
Careful.
what the words are. Is the second to last one canvas lane?
So the second to last one is actually lean canvas. I spin the words around. Right. So that's lean canvas.
Okay.
And the last one, it's a driver for agribusiness development. One of the drivers for agribusiness development.
I could try the 5.
Okay, try the 5.
Business idea, business model, niche, lane canvas, and
brilliant. You see, it very easy, right? Very easy, right? But there are some of the concepts that we're going to cover this afternoon. So thank you for trying, ladies. I hope it stimulated the brain a bit, and we can move on to the next section. So next slide. Next slide, Latoya.
You're not seeing it?
No, I'm not. I'm still seeing unscramble in 60 seconds. I'm not sure. Ladies, are you seeing the next slide?
Why am I starting?
Yes, yeah.
Upscaling the enterprise?
Why am I not seeing it? Okay, hold. Let me see. Hold for me. Let me just, right, good. Oh, I don't know what's going on there. Good. So why am I starting on upscaling an enterprise? Do we have persons here that actually have agribusinesses that they are operating? Do we have anyone here, not just doing agriculture for passion, but doing it as a business? Okay,
not agribusiness, but I do a small poultry farm. So I do broiler chicks and I do eggs as well.
But so that is Jan speaking?
Yes, it is.
Jan,
but that's my part-time because
but Jan, that's your agribusiness.
Right.
that's
I do a little chicken ham as well.
So exactly. So you have moved along the whole value chain so far. You're into poultry, and then you do chicken ham. So you're adding value as well. So yes, you are perfectly scaled. You're a perfectly scaled agribusiness right now. The just thing is that we need to move it to the next stage, right? Good. So we have Jan. Anyone else? Janelle? Yes. Ranita? Yes.
Yes.
Good. Do you have a business as well?
Me, Janelle?
Yes.
So what I do I do farming, but the purpose of the farming is to supplement to use as a supplement for what I'm selling because I sell food, right?
Okay.
So I roast chicken and do fishes and stuff like that. So the sides come in, I make salads and stuff from the produce that I use. All right.
Great, but you're still an agribusiness. Remember we spoke about the value chain concept and the different aspects that comes into play as it pertains to agriculture and being an agribusiness. It's just that you are doing the production end, but you're also adding value. Good. So great. So we have some ladies that are already doing agribusiness. But I want to take you back a little bit. So last concept, we look at the agriculture, and this time we're going to look at business. But the first thing I want to ask you, as it pertains to the business end of it. A lot of you said you're very passionate about agriculture and you do it in your backyard and things like that. But this particular program that you are participating in is one of those programs that are basically giving you or providing you with the necessary information and tools that will allow you to move from where you actually are in terms of it just being a passion and making it into a business. So we have to think outside the box now in terms of you just having a passion. And for those that are already starting business, you can probably help the others here right now. Because my next question that I'm going to ask, or what I'm going to say next, is basically when you took up the challenge of starting an agribusiness, did you look at you, at your personal self, what was happening in your life, what's going on, where you are now, where you want to be, and how you actually going to get there? Did you go through that mental process?
Me, not for me.
Jan, did you?
For me, not really totally, because we did it as, you know, like a hobby before. And then after COVID came around, actually, I actually started that as a project at my school. And after COVID came around and I had more time on my hand, and then we didn't do that aspect at school anymore because we did it as a CPA project. So then my customers we had that bought when I had it at school were asking me why I don't continue. So that's how I actually started with a one little small pen, 1 dozen chicken, and, you know, from there it grew from there. And then eventually after COVID came on, I decided to, well, not try to see if I could do my own eggs, because, you know, there was scarcity and so forth. So that's how I started.
Good. So
and I had a little training in agro processing, so I could have the chicken, ham, and so forth. I would have gotten some training in that area before. So
good. That's good. Couple things you mentioned that I'm going to talk about now. So the first thing I want to tell you as ladies who are in agriculture and looking to actually develop businesses of what you're doing, it's important for you to look at yourself. You need to ask yourself a couple questions along the line of, here I am now. What is happening around me, or what is happening to my life that I need to move to the next step? And really and truly, do I need to just probably keep it as pleasure, or do I need to take it to business? Once we decide that we're going to do that, there are a couple of things that we need. You need to say to yourself, and I do it to myself all the time. I would just sit down when I'm looking at TV and I would say, how do I see my future in the next 5 years? God's willing. How do I see my future in the next 5 years? And I think when I started my business, it was a question that I asked myself, because I was looking in the future to be a bit more independent than I was then. So I needed to do something different and additional to what I was doing at the time. And being gifted with the land that I have, and also having a degree, a formal training in agriculture and agribusiness, I decided that it actually made sense at the time, moving from just doing agriculture as a pleasure and actually making it into a business, because I had a vision in 5 years what I wanted to be at then. So it's important for you to sit down and ask yourself, do I have the time? Do I have the necessary capacity? Do I have the necessary personnel around with me? Do I know what's happening in this particular area that I want to go? And then you sit and you ask yourself and you answer questions and you validate them and you take them off. And if by chance you probably ended up with having 8 out of 10 that leans you to actually starting what you're doing as a business, then all means go ahead. So sit down, ask yourself, what am I really good at? What are my weaknesses? And then decide that, here, what does it really make sense just keep doing this for fun, or do I go on to and start a business? I took the route of actually starting a business, but I still keep the actual pleasure aspect of it. But once you decide to move on to business, then there are a couple of things that we need to look at, and I want to talk about some of those. So next slide, please, Latoya. Good. So we're going to look at agribusiness development, which is the process of growing and making a business successful. All right. When we are in business, to make money. At the end of the day, we want to generate wealth. Not just profit, because profit is not yours. Profit actually belongs to the business. But we want to generate wealth. And in generating wealth, that is what belongs to you. So agribusiness development, as a way of definition, is the process of growing and making a business successful. All right, next slide. Good. So we sat down, we decided we want to go into business. There are a couple of things that we need to think about. And one of the major things that we need to do is that when that idea comes to mind, we need to plan. But we're not just going to just do anything. One of the first things that we need to do is look at strategic direction. And that is why I said to you, even now that you're in the business, you need to sit back, reflect, take time and reflect and see what you're doing and decide here what. Whether we need to keep what we're doing, whether we need to drop something or whether we need to add. And Jan said it perfectly. She was doing it at school for a project. Then persons told us that asked if she's going to continue. She made the decision to continue. And now she has taken her training that she did in agro processing and add value. And now she's doing ham. So need to know where you want to be at a particular time. So you need to have a vision. You need to have a concept as to what you want in the future, God's willing. With that being said, you also need to know in terms of the necessary resources that you have access to. And this resource that you have, how do you manage it properly? In my case, I had access to land, but I didn't have access to funds. So I had to go and find funds, right? I had access to formal training. Not everyone have that. So basically, what you need to do is how do I manage the necessary resources that I actually have control of to actually move the business to the next step? The next thing is that risk mitigation. A lot of us don't take this into concept at all, even in our very lives, how we operate in our personal lives. How do we mitigate certain things? So for example, we're doing business, right? But we want to keep what we're doing for ourselves. So we don't want to employ anybody, or we don't want to share what our recipe is. We don't want to share what our process is. We don't want to do a process manual, nothing of the sort. So basically, if today, tomorrow, God forbid, we get ill, then nothing happens in the business. We had nothing in plan in terms of how our business continues in the event that something happens. And that's life. Life in general, it's not perfect. So we need to, my battery's running low. We need to make sure that we bear this in mind, the importance of having a risk mitigation plan, or as we might say in business continuity. And it's not just not having someone else with us. We're living in the hurricane belt, and a hurricane could pass and it could damage our roof for our business. It could damage our equipment. It could damage our machines. We can lose all of our goods that we store to flooding. So it's important as business persons, or even if you're not a business person, in your very personal life, to have a mitigation plan, a risk mitigation plan in place. Very important for any business that goes forward, if you're looking to actually develop a business. The next thing is access to finance. In our planning, we must plan how we're going to access finance. And finance in itself does not necessarily mean that you need to go to a bank to borrow a loan. You might be at this stage now in the business where a loan is not the best choice for you. So what you can do, in my case, what I did when I started business, I borrowed money from my mom. Not everybody is that blessed, but at least little things. So when I borrowed that money went back, it spent, it did what it have to do, and then I got money and I reinvested it into the business. So, and then as I grew, I needed more finance. So at at different stages of business development, you're going to need different access to finance. And that is something in your outlook when you're planning. It is important for you to check, hey, 5 years, I might be at this, and this might probably be the stage now where I need a loan to move to the next stage. So in planning, find that era, find the right finance. Do not go and take finance that is going to put you in debt and then you cannot pay it back. So if you're not at the stage where you need a loan or go to a financial institution for a loan, don't do it. Plan how you're going to access finance and where you're going to access from. We're going to touch a little bit on it, but you have a session coming up on finance. So we're just going to touch on it because it's necessary in terms of business development. And then you have to measure progress. At every stage, you need to put things in place to say, here what, I am doing okay, or I am not doing okay. I probably need to change direction here. And this is where you go back to what you had in terms of your strategic plan. All the way through, from strategic direction to resource management, to risk mitigation, to access finance, you need to put things in place that say, here what, the business is doing well or it's not doing well. The idea needs to change, or I'm now at startup stage, I need to drop something or not. For example, in my case, time became a measuring tool, key metric for me, because it meant that here what, when I started farming about 20 years ago, my life was at a different stage. I am now at a different stage as well. I can have family, you probably might get married, you probably might have children, and of course, all that have impact on how your business grows and how it develops. So you put things in place to tell you, I need to drop a crop that I'm doing. How do I do that? All right. So just some things I wanted to share with you as it pertains to business planning. And we're now going to get into the nitty-gritty. Yes, Amanda, you need to know if you're feasible as well, but we're getting to that. We're now going to jump in a bit to that in terms of how we can decide whether what we're doing for business is feasible, yes or no. I'm going to give you those tools that you can use to decide that. All right. So thanks for sharing that, Amanda. Next slide, Latoya. Thanks. Good. So I actually, in deciding these steps, what I did is that I tried to make it as practical as possible, especially as it pertains to how I actually went about setting up my business. And because I just didn't want the generic, I wanted to make it as practical for you so that you can actually take it and put it into practice. So the first step, when I sat down and I asked myself that question, how do I see myself in the next 5 years? And I decided that I wanted to go and be a businesswoman. The first thing I did was to conduct some research, because I already made up my mind that I was going to stay in the field of agriculture, because it's where I have my farmer training. It's actually what I did before I had my farmer training. I kept animals, I did lettuce production, and things like that. So I decided to conduct some research of what was happening in the agriculture market, the crops that were available, where I would get my necessary inputs, who were my major stakeholders, I already knew who my major competitors were, and things like that. So I got a holistic understanding. I went up to the Ministry of Agriculture, I remember, and I went to the Planning and Marketing Department, and I asked them for their cost of production for that particular year, which was basically my first start in terms of documentation for decision making. So that is one thing I would like to share with you, ladies, that you I don't know if it's accessible now, because I now have my own tool that I can use to do cost of production. But when I started with the Ministry of Agriculture cost of production for that particular year that I started. So I think you ladies, if you're looking in terms of business development, or if you're at the idea stage and you want to know what it would cost you to produce a particular crop, you can visit the Ministry of Agriculture Planning and Marketing Department and ask them if you can have access to that particular information. They also have a NAMIS up. I'm not sure if it's running, but you can also check it out and see if there's a cost of production there. Good. Having done that, then I decided what I was going to produce. And I had several things. As I said to you, I started with several crops. And then over time, now I only do certain crops based on certain particular markets that I am operating in. Then I did a plan. I sat down and I did a plan. My business is actually a family business. So we sat down together and we did a plan as to how we want this, what our goals were, what we wanted to achieve, and things like that. And then, as I said to you, I looked for funding. I knew I was not at the stage where I can approach any financial institution for a loan because I was just starting up. So I took the route of family and friends, and I got funding from them. But before that, I did all the necessary research in terms of how you go about getting funding and things like that. And then, of course, if I wanted to play in this agriculture market, I had to understand the rules and regulation of what is happening in the market. When do I plant? When do I not plant? When do I deliver? How do I go about getting to the market? What the market is asking for? When do I deliver? When do I not? How they want it delivered from sack to box on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Thursday. I had to understand basically what is happening in the system as it pertains to agriculture. And then, of course, you had to do registration. Registration, couple things here in terms of registration. You have the ministry's registration as it pertains to you being a certified farmer, and you know the whole process with that. You have to have land and things like that. And then, of course, registration in terms of registering the business name. That was a goal of mine, and I'm still working towards that. I'm not fully registered as a business as yet. Still trying to, because of couple logistics in terms of legalities, in terms of the land tenure. As I said, if you have children who are into agriculture and interested in law, you can ask them to at least specialize a bit in land tenureship and agriculture law. Good. And of course, as I said, all the necessary license, necessary certificates that you're going to need to actually practice and be business persons within the industry. And then, of course, the final arrangement when I actually started and things like that. Yeah. Yes, Amanda, I know the whole ID drama. You have to go all over in terms of the process for that. So we're going to cover these steps now. I know it's a mouthful. As I said, I try to make it as practical as possible as it pertains to how I started. You can always jump in and share your experience in terms of how you started or where you are in terms of this whole business development and staying within the agriculture industry. All right?
Excuse me.
Sure. Shafika? That's
Hello?
you? Is it Shafika?
Is it okay? Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Is it okay for me? I don't know if everybody understands the procedure in terms of getting the farmer's ID. But I can tell you, if they do not know, I can give the information in the chat after.
Sure. Great.
Okay.
I don't know. I could probably just outline what I know from what I did, Shafika, and if there are any changes or any additional things that you want to add, you can add. Is that okay? Can we work with that?
Okay, no problem.
Okay. So in terms of, I just renewed my card. I just renewed my card. I think I've changed card 4 times now over the years. About that, yeah, 4 or 5 times, right? About that, right? I knew I had to, as I said, the land that I have is not owned by me, so I had to get the deed from the person. I also had to get a letter signed, notarized. I had to get a notarized letter from the individual that I'm using the land. I also had to get, of course, I'm missing something. I had to get a couple of other things in terms of being able to access my ID. But as I said, I think there's a form that you have to fill out, and your extension officer has to sign it. Of course, you have to take your photo and stuff like that. So, but as Shafika said, we're gonna look forward to her putting it in the chat at the end of the session as to how you actually go through getting your farmer's ID. All right, good. Thank you very much for that, Shafika. Next slide, Latoya. Yeah. So Amanda, Shafika would probably attempt to answer that question, but what if the land wasn't owned but leased from the government for years? Then where are you going to find documents to show? Interesting. There is a form, Amanda, that when you get to the ministry, there's a form that you can fill out as it pertains to the ownership of land and your ID. Because I had to fill that form out because, as I said, I didn't own that land. All right, good. So let's look at this video, just a short video as the importance of market research and how to conduct market research for small businesses, right? Because we're going to jump into that as the first step. All right, let's do it.
Market research for small businesses is absolutely critical to your success. Research provides a platform to go forward in your businesses, allowing you to be armed with the knowledge of variants that will play a vital part in your success and future. No matter what size your company, all successful business owners must have an understanding basics of market or the world. Competitors, who are the customers and what are their needs? Are people interested in my product? What does it take to be competitive? How does my business compare with my competitors? Who are my customers and how do they behave? What kind of people are they? Where do they live? What are my customers' core needs and how do they choose products or service? How is my product or service perceived by customers? One way to do your market research is by trying to Google your competition and see what and how they are offering the products. From there, you can make your necessary adjustments that you feel would result to more people buying from you. A good marketing plan can be established by having a good market research. You have to locate a market that is profitable, even if the market size is a big one. But if people in the market are not willing to spend, you will never make a lot of money from it. You can determine this by doing some research. Check if there are any sponsored ads in your market. If they are, it means that your market is willing to spend. If you are using social media sites like Facebook and Twitter in your small business, then you have a great place to discuss upcoming products or services with your customers. LinkedIn is also used for social media marketing of brands and businesses. The kind of posts carried out in LinkedIn are slightly different from those other social media platforms. The social media marketing techniques used for LinkedIn are slightly on the serious intellectual side. You don't want to do things just like everyone else. Be original. Think about how you'd like to see it in the market, how you'd like to see it described. People all view things differently. What works for attracts one person may not push the next person's buttons. Just set it up the way you'd like to see it or experience it. If possible, make sure that you have some interest with your market. If you're doing something that you are interested in, you can do it better and you'll have the motivation to go on. Business plan writing is an essential task you must need to perform when starting or running a business. So write a business plan with proper market research and target market database. If you found this video helpful, then like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get future videos.
Okay, so a very short video, but quite a mouthful. So we're gonna break it down a bit and look at, first we're gonna look at the okay, good. So first, we're gonna look at methods of conducting market research. So first, we're gonna have to find a problem. So why am I doing the research? What are you doing the research for? In my case, I needed to find out what was happening in the market, which products were feasible, which products fit within the resource that I have in terms of my capacity to actually move the business forward, and also how do I get the necessary input, what stakeholders available to help me, and things like that. So I needed information, basically. That's what I need. I need information. Okay, good. So then the next thing is that you're going to have to develop an approach. So how do I go about getting the information that I'm looking for? There are primary ways of getting information and there are secondary ways of collecting data. Primary means basically you're doing it to yourself. So whatever is happening, it is actually happening to you. All right? You're going out and you're finding the information in terms of you are doing the experience yourself. You're experiencing it. Whatever is happening to you. Then there is secondary method of actually going about doing your research. And that's where it's what a lot of us do. We go and we find information. As the video said, you can find the information on using a survey. You can find it in terms of secondary data. So information that's already out there. So you can visit the internet, you can utilize your social media, you can talk to persons within your community, you can find an old farmer to help you, you can actually go to the supermarkets, you can go to the vendors in the market and ask questions. And not just ask questions. Observation is such a powerful tool. You can just stand up for 5 minutes and observe what's happening in the market and learn so much. So you have primary data and then you have secondary data. Then you can also look at how you go about doing it. How do you collect the information? So you can do surveys. Now these days, the beautiful thing, when I started, I actually had to come up with questions and go out and ask. Or find an old farmer somewhere to sit with. Beautiful thing is now is that we have access to what you call digital transformation. And that is what is basically transforming the whole agriculture industry. Because now you have platforms that could just develop these surveys for you and develop these interview questions for you. You don't have to do it yourself because we have persons out there now with platforms who are doing content generation. So you just need to tell them what you want. And then recently, just when I was doing research for this particular session, Bing, which is a search engine, as you know, just like Google, just launched their AI. Which when I said AI, I mean artificial intelligence. They just launched their AI. And you just need to say, even if you can type or if you can, you just need to say, hey, tell me what's going on in the agriculture market in St. Vincent. And you would be surprised as to the amount of information that would pop up for you. So decide how you want it done, whether you want to use a survey, whether you want to do interviews yourself, or you just want to go and have a chit chat or use your observation skills in terms of gathering information. And then when you get the information, you need to analyze the information. See what's happening in terms of which crop is best, what is going on in terms of the environment, what is going on in terms of technology, and how you can apply it to your business going forward. And then, of course, you take action. So you actually start and you decide that you're going to plant corn because the market is really good. You're getting a good price for it. It's actually a want on it's actually in demand. and all that. So you need to not just have the information, you need to actually use the information in terms of business development and decision making in different aspects of your business at different times. So it's important for you to look at this. Good. So that's just some methods of actually conducting market research. The next thing I want to share with you is a tool, a particular tool that you can use to decide if it actually makes sense for you to do business in a particular environment or in a particular market, or if it makes sense introducing this particular crop. So we're going to look now at conducting market research, and I am going to use, there are a couple tools that you can use. You can use PESTLE. Have anybody ever heard about the PESTLE, P-E-S-T-L-E, tool in terms of finding information? Anybody ever heard about that? It's a popular one. It's a popular one that we use in the business world. I don't know if you ever heard about it. Yes. Patrice says no. Alberta says no. Okay. So the PESTLE, when you look at the PESTLE, and Joylyn, you can help me if I miss anything. If you're looking at the PESTLE, what the PESTLE forces you to do or allows you to do is to look at what is happening in your economy from a political standpoint. And there is a political standpoint in terms of policy. What are the government policy that governs small business development? So does the government have a policy where they have in place in terms of helping small businesses with export? Is there a policy in place with the government in terms of helping you with finance? Does the government have a policy in place that helps you in terms of getting your products tested or even labs? So based on what is happening politically in terms of the economy, that's what the P stands for in PESTLE. Then you have the E. The E now stands for the economy. So the E now stands for economy. And what is asking you, what is going on in the economy? For us right now, we know a couple of things are happening in our economy. So you take that into context in terms of demographics. How often are people buying? How much, what are the types of businesses that really that are flourishing in our economy? What crops are doing well? How many markets are there? What are the market structures that are in place? You know, those kind of things in terms of what is happening in the economy. How often are persons buying? So how often are persons coming to the market? Or how often are persons going to the supermarket to purchase? All right. In terms of businesses, how many businesses are starting up in the agricultural industry? Those are some of the things that we need to look at. And then the other one is S, which is socially. What is happening socially in terms of the economy? All right. And then the T stands for technology. Well, we know a lot of things are happening in terms of technology for business. So much things are happening now. The L stands for legal aspects, and the E stands for the environmental aspects that are happening. So that's the PESTLE. So you look at the business environment from those particular areas. But the one that I want to talk to you about, the Porter's Five Forces. Now, the Porter's Five Forces is a tool that is used to analyze your particular industry. So it's used to analyze we're going to use it to analyze the agriculture industry and where your business will lie within the value chain and also where it would lie within the industry. So we're going to take into context what we learned about, well, last session about the value chain. So if you could remember something. So barriers to entry in the market. The thing is that when you look at this, All right. So when we look at this, what you ask yourself is how easy it is to actually enter the agriculture industry. And when you ask yourself that, you ask yourself, if I do enter and I'm doing something different than what is happening, how easy would it be for somebody else to copy what I am doing? If that is so high, then you might decide that, here what, it really don't make sense I invest in this particular aspect of agriculture. So you can probably decide to, hear what, instead I go into, if I look at production, it has so many farmers, so many, you know, but I could still find my niche within that. And then when I do find my niche, I ask myself how easy it is for others to enter this particular niche that I identified. So that's where barriers to entry comes in terms of helping you to make a decision if to actually, which aspect of agribusiness or which category of agribusiness you would like to fall under. And then let me see, we need to say, so with all these barriers, how do we create businesses that mitigate all these barriers and create sustainable livelihood with our businesses? Renita, I'm going to try as best as possible to give you the necessary tools for you to answer that question. The thing is that barriers are just the first step. You can always mitigate that and find the niche within that particular industry that you're operating. Once you do market research and you analyze the findings, you try as best to analyze the findings to fit within your particular context and the resource that you have available for you. So yes, we can do with all these barriers. You can find your niche. And I'm going to use an example. I remember when I started to do production, I did everything. And then I made a particular investment as it pertains to a particular health group. I decided that I wanted to produce for a particular health group. But for me to do that, it meant I had to change how I do farming completely. I had to come out of the traditional way of doing farming. And because something happened and it hit home that I needed to change what I was doing. So health-wise, somebody got ill for me and they need to eat. And I needed to see how I could supplement what they're doing because they were very close to me and I needed to produce food for them that was healthy enough for them to eat. And I made a conscious change in terms of how I actually did production. So you can find your niche, Renita, in whatever industry that you're looking at, based within the resources that you have access to. All right. So yes, you can. The suppliers, when we look at suppliers, you're going into the industry, you need to know how many suppliers are there. What strength do they have? And in terms of if they are the number one or if they fit probably 2 or 3 or 5 down the line in terms of business structure. So right now in Vincent, we know we probably have about 3 or 4 input suppliers for us. And they are strong at their own level. And they provide us with different things at their own level. But in terms of suppliers, it's a competitive arena. They basically use the same, they give you the same price. Of course, input warehouse is substitute by the government. It's a government organization, always statutory. But yeah, we have suppliers. And if we look at suppliers in terms of inputs, and if we look at suppliers as in terms of services, we have few. Even if we look at it from a financial standpoint, our banks have a very small portfolio for agriculture finance. Although we are an agriculture economy. But we all know that over the past couple of years, services was what the government policies were driven at, until COVID decided to hit us in our face and say, here what? It cannot just be services. You need to look at all the other aspects of the productive sector for your economy to actually grow. Then you have buyers. And we know how the agriculture industry is with buyers. You either supermarket, you either vendors, or you either traffickers, as we call them. And some of us do export. So it goes straight to either regional markets, or we need to know who the major players are. So who are the major buyers in the game? Right? So we need to know that. We need to know how strong they are. And we know that our buyers are strong. It's not a question. A farmer rarely asks a buyer. So a farmer rarely tells a buyer how much they want. Buyers tell us, and that's because we have so much and we are doing the same thing. So we are price takers. All right. We really don't have that power to say, hey, what? I don't want that. Some of us do. And I applaud those farmers. Some of us do. We say, hey, we're not interested. Just like our processors, we know what we do in terms of adding value to raw materials. And if we don't like the price, we keep our stuff. But then it means we're still price takers because we have so few buyers. Right? They dictate basically how that goes. I know all about that. You have to, that's a decision, that's a business decision that you have to take, Amanda, as it pertains to the buyers that you actually work with and who you trust. All right. And you yourself has to put in certain policies, certain procedures within your business and how you do business so that you don't suffer that particular issue in terms of money up front and this and that. If you know you need your money up front, then and a buyer cannot provide you with that, then you do not do business with that particular buyer. That's what I do. Basically, I have a policy. I give you 7 days in terms of paying me. If you muck up 2 or 3 times, and I say thank you very much for your business, and I move on. At the end of the day, I am in this to make money and to have and to for my business to grow. So
we're not hearing you. You're muted.
Thank you very much. I think Latoya muted me by mistake. Sorry. So I don't know what the last thing that you heard. Substitutes? Can anybody say to me the last thing that they heard? Hello?
You were saying that you comes to you and they don't have the money with the ways in what you would demand because you want them to pay. If they don't pay, I mean, it's on you. And you normally give them a time frame as well.
Right. So
if they mess up.
Thank you very much, Natisha. That is, you have to put in certain procedures and policies into your business that is going to work for you, for your business to grow. You have to develop relationship with your buyers. So that's another, and it took me a while to learn this. I mean, we all in business and we share with one another, but it took me a while to fine tune the procedures and make them work for me in terms of the business growing. And I'm now actually seeing the benefit from certain procedures that I put in place. So you have to work that in, Amanda. All right. In terms of substitutes, if I am doing a crop or if you are doing a product, you need to ask yourself, what is out there if my product is not available? What else can my consumers or my buyers use or get access to if my product is not available? And then what you do, you assess how strong or how important this particular substitute is in the market. All right. And then competition. We all know we have to look at what's going on at the competition in any business that we're doing, whether we're doing agriculture, whether we are doing service-oriented businesses. You must see what your competition is doing. You learn from them. You learn from them when you look at what they are doing. Even the video was saying that to you. So you learn from what your competition is doing. However, if you go in an industry where your competition is so large, the rivalry in your competition is so large, it probably might be best for you not to go there. But if you do go there, you find your strength and your niche and you stand on those. So one of the things that you could probably look at in terms of finding your niche and looking at your competition rivalry, because in the agriculture industry, competition is strong. You probably need to look at health and where you can find your niche. As I said, I had somebody who came at that door as it pertains to non-communicable diseases, and I had to now produce food for them to eat. So I had to make a conscious change in how I produced food traditionally. So this is just a tool that you can use. It's one tool. There are many tools out there that you can use to conduct your market research. So let me also put in the chat the other tool that I was speaking about, so that you can use it. You can do some research on it and use it in helping you to make business decisions. All right. Ladies, we just have about an hour to go. So Latoya, can we go to the next slide? Do you need to, we just got to the 7 o'clock point. Am I right, Latoya? Yeah, we just got to the 7 o'clock point. I don't know, do you want a minute break or do we continue? Can I get some feedback from you?
Continue.
Okay, all right, good. So we were talking about the research. So we looked at market research, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the final product or the final service that we decide on. So when you do your research and you're going to decide, or you have made your decision, you do your analysis, and you're going to decide that you're going to take action. These are the things that I want you to bear in mind. So be able to describe your product in at least 5 sentences. So for example, if I decide to do vegetables, so I'm going to do vegetable production. So I am going to do vegetables that are leafy, that I can get in 3 months' time, that the market can use in salads, and the seeds are all readily available, and they work very well with our climatic conditions. So be able to describe the final product or service that you decide on in 5 sentences. If not 5, at least 2 or 3, so that when you're going to your market, because for example, the other day I called a supermarket, one of my markets, and I told them that I had a particular product. And I asked them if they wanted, because I know I had to go and harvest. And I had a conversation with the purchasing officer, because I have a relationship with him in terms of what they buy from me. So in the conversation, a couple of things came up, and one of them that came up was, once you have good quality. And I was a bit taken back, because I wanted to know in terms of what was going on in the market to make him actually say that to me, in terms of once they have good quality. Couple of things pop up in my mind. Is basically, are farmers delivering products that are not of good quality, or delivery time was an issue, or we have climatic issues dealing with? So once we understand and you have a conversation always remember to develop a relationship with your market. It's the only way you could find out how you need to make changes and where you need to make decisions. So in that little conversation that we had for 5 minutes, it basically allowed me to make a change in terms of production and my delivery to market, how I deliver to market. It also sent me back to double check on what I do in terms of grading. All right. So it jumped me forward to the benefits. And we spoke about the fact of the non-communicable diseases that's out there and how we are producing food for persons to eat. And that is the next thing that you need to say to your market. So I answered him, I said, okay, but I produce this particular crop under certain conditions. I only harvest at a certain time. I would deliver it to you in a certain way. So at the end of the day, I had to ascertain to him that the quality that I'm going to bring for him is of good quality. So you need to be able to say what the benefit is or what the benefits are as it pertains to the product or the service that you are delivering to your market. It don't matter whether you're in agriculture or you're in a service-oriented business. The thing is that when you look at your value chain and where you fall, you need to know what your product and service is and be able to tell persons, hey, this is the benefit if you buy my product. Then you're going to describe the process and the added value. So I said to him, I would deliver at a certain time and I would not deliver it in an open container. I would deliver it in a closed container, probably in a bag, sealed. So then he don't have to do anything other than just put it on the shelf. So you need to also sell the good part of what you are producing if you when you finally decide on the product and the service that you're going to use to actually let the business go. All right. So this is another tool that you can look at in terms of helping you to formalize your idea or the next step for your business. Right. Good. Latoya. Good. So we are at the tools and that we can use for business development. So we are at ideation. So we're going to look at ideation. When I say ideation, is this word new to anyone? Have you heard this word before?
Yes. First time I'm hearing it.
That's Natalie, right? Okay.
It's the first time I'm hearing it.
All right. Good. Good. So good. So let's talk a little bit about ideation. So it's the first time you're hearing it, but it's the first time you will be doing it. You have been doing it all your life and you're probably doing it, but you're not conscious that you're doing it. So ideation is the process of actually sitting down and generating ideas. That's all it is. So it's the process of sitting down, coming up with ideas, refining these ideas and selecting which one works best for us. That's what it's all about. Come on, we do it all the time. We sit down and as I say, I keep saying to myself, and I would ask myself this question, how do I see my next 5 years? And I think someone asked me that the other day, and I was just able to rattle off because I've already planned out, God's willing, health and strength, how I would love to see my next 5 years. And this is the process that you go through in terms of how do you select what you want to do, even at the product or even at the service stage, whether you are just doing straight farming in terms of production or whether you fall in the processing end of the value chain or whether you fall in the service end of the value chain for an agribusiness. You just need to sit down and say, here, what? I'm coming up with 10 ideas. How do I come up with these ideas? How do I refine these ideas? And at the end of the day, how do I select these ideas? And that's all ideation involves. Then we move to business models. Can anybody tell me, just off the top of your head, one sentence, What are business models? If you knew, I have a little definition there, but I wanted to know if you know anything outside the box as it pertains to what business models are. Anyone? Is it new to you as well? Can I have some feedback? Is it new? Okay. Anyway, what happens?
Business models, I think they're like projects, like a project proposal that you put together, stating your objectives and stream of income, your expenditures to be incurred prior to the actual business itself. So you have your vision statement, your mission statement, your objectives, your long-term goals, probably some temporary short-term goals, projected expenditures, projected income, and at what point in time you think the business will start making profits.
That's where we need to jump in. That's where I need to jump in now, Joy. Your business model basically says to you how you are making money, where your money will be coming from. That is basically what your business model tells you. How do I make money? What are the things that I need to do to make money? That's what the business model does. So there are different templates out there that you can use in terms of your business model. But at the end of the day, what I want you to take away in terms as it pertains to business model, because there are many models, are how do I make my money? Where is my money coming from? All right, so when you're looking at business models, that is what I want you. Yes, there are templates, there are different steps and procedures to actually doing it. But at the end of the day, we are in business to make money. We are in business for wealth. How do I make money? Where is my money coming from? So that is what I want you to take away for this particular session, because we're doing agribusiness development when we talk about business models. All right. So thank you very much for sharing. I love that. Very clear and precise. And for those also in the chat, whatever all that you put there, it applies. The thing is that here, what at the end of the day, you have to use the model to know exactly how your money comes into your business. All right, good. And then we're gonna look at how we communicate our business, and we're gonna be using two tools: the business plan and a lean canvas. So that is what we're going to look at as it pertains to how do we communicate the idea. All right, good. Latoya, next slide. So we're going to briefly look at ideation. So in terms of idea generation, the different tools that applies under ideation as it pertains to how do we come up with the ideas. There's a tool or there's a process that we call brainstorming. Now with brainstorming, what you do is that you look around you and you see what problems are. And you jot these down. And then you find, but in jotting these problems down, what you need to look at it from a business standpoint, because we're doing business development. So we sit down and we come up with 10, 20, 30 ideas, and we jot them down and we go through them, and then we put them together, and then we refine them, and then we say, here, what, these need to go, these need to stay. All right. So that's brainstorming. And then we have something we call 10 by 10, which is basically you coming up with 10 ideas in 10 minutes. And it does not box you in, it allows you to be free and you don't think too much. So if you're writing down and you're thinking transportation, taxi, or you might probably say ham production, or you might probably say poultry, or you might probably say pork production, or you might say packed vegetables, or you might say, so you don't box yourself in, you just let the ideas flow. Then opposite thinking is basically, here what? If I am doing this, what will happen if I do it the other way? All right. And from these, you get feedback and you find those ideas that actually answer or solve a problem that you identified. And those are normally the ones that you run with. So that's idea generation. Then we do idea evaluation. I think it's Amanda, somebody mentioned the fact about we do feasibility assessment. We look at market demand. We look at what is happening in this segment that we decide that we are producing for. And then we come up with what we're really good at. And there's a matrix. I don't know if anybody have ever heard about the how, now, wow matrix. Basically, this is a matrix that you use in terms of if you came up with 10 ideas. If you came up with 10 ideas, what you do, you fit the 10 ideas in the how, now, wow matrix. So the matrix, you know, you have your y and x axis. So it talks about, you take the idea and you put it in and you say, how much effort would it need for me for this particular idea to come true? And then you said, is this an existing idea, or did I improve on it, or did I just radically change what I know? And then you look at them and you say, how easy or how hard or how much effort would I need to put into actually bringing this idea to life? When you look at that, then you decide, here what? I could probably start at an existing product that has little effort or small effort to actually bring it to the market. And then I gradually improve on this particular project until I radically change it to the next step. So that is where you're looking at in terms of the 5-year plan. All right. So if you don't want to use 5 years and you want a year plan, or you want to use 2 years, this is where you actually get the opportunity to put this idea together. I would see if I could find a slide that gives you an example of the How Now Wow project, and I'm share that with you, or you can research it on your search engine, whichever search engine that you use. So it's the How Now Wow matrix. All right. And lastly, in terms of ideation, it's idea refinement. So what do we use in terms of making sure that what we want to put forward is the best? And I already shared one tool with you where you can use the idea profile, or you can do a validation test. You know, in the validation test is basically you tick off certain things in terms of what you had set out there for what you want. So for example, is this a product that persons will continually want? If it is, then you tick yes. If it's not, then you tick no. Is this a product that is easily accessible, or how do I go about? Would my buyers be able to access it easy? If that's yes, or if it's no, you take it off. And then by the time you finish with your validation, you will decide, this is an idea that I should go forward with, or this is an idea that I should step back and probably do a little bit research and a little bit more refinement on. So ideation is not anything hard. It's something that we do basically every day in life. It's just that now you know this is something that you can add to your business procedure in terms of helping you with business decisions. Okay, Latoya? This is a challenge I want to give to you. Because of time, you will not be able to actually do it during class, but it's homework. Brainstorming, more is more, keep it fun. Can you come up with 10 business ideas in 5 minutes? So that would be homework. We would see if anybody is willing to share at the beginning of next session. So that's a challenge I give to you. To come up with 10 business ideas in 5 minutes. As I said, don't box yourself in, just allow them to flow and write them down. Okay, good. So Ronita is going to share with us at the beginning of next session in terms of how much ideas that she came up with in 5 minutes. Time yourself, Ronita, when you are doing. If you go beyond 10, brilliant. Okay, good. Latoya, next slide, please. Good. So I just want to mention business models so that you have an idea sometimes when I ask business persons that I work with, so what is your business model? And they would just look at me blank. And I would say to them, but you practice it every day. So what is your business model? And then I have to walk it through with them. So I don't want you to be blank when next you see business models, or when next somebody asks you that question. I want you to be able to answer it right off the bat. So we have business to consumers, which is what we call B2B. So it involves businesses selling products or services directly to individual consumers. For example, a farmer selling directly from farm, or a transportation system, farmer selling from market. So we practice all three. So we have what you call farm gate here. A lot of farmers or a lot of agriculture people tend not to want to do that, because they figure that they don't get enough in terms of return. But I know of one farmer friend of mine that that's all he does. He has never gone to market straight. Buyers go to his farm and buy, period. So he do not have to deal with transportation costs, marketing costs, all these things. But buyers go straight to his farm and buy. And his revenue stream is really good, because he don't have the additional costs to deal with. So this is one such way, buyer to consumer straight. Okay. Another one is business to business. So it involves businesses selling products or services directly to another business. For example, a farmer selling to a husker or a supermarket or a restaurant and others. So this is one way a lot of us do it. For example, this is actually my business model. I sell to businesses. So again, you have to choose a model that fits within your concept, your vision, as how you see your business grow and develop. So I had practice. I've only done business to consumer on a very small scale, because of where my farm is. It would be very hard for me to do business to consumer. So within my natural resource, I really cannot do a B2C. I have to do either a B2B or a mobile commerce, but we will get to that. And then you have customer to customer. So this involves customers selling products or services directly to individual consumers. Well, I had here using artificial intelligence, cloud computing to create new opportunities. But for example, what the processors, the agro processors, you fall a lot within this particular business model, customer to customer. And what you find sometimes is that here there is something that we call alliance marketing, where I produce a product, right? So I produce a product. I'm going to sell this product, but I'm not going to put my brand on it. I'm going to let somebody else market it or brand it for me. So again, it all depends on how you have worked out your revenue streams, how you're getting your money. And then last but not least, mobile or e-commerce, which is basically where we utilize our WhatsApp and we utilize our social media to actually conduct businesses. So, we have a network. You might probably have, we set up now WhatsApp business accounts, and there is where we actually conduct businesses. And so we decide that's where our money comes from. So sometimes you don't necessarily have to get the money, delivered in your hand. Real life physical, you can get it just sent to your account, and then you check it. You check it on your phone using the different apps or different platforms, whether it's Bank of St. Vincent or other platforms that are available there in terms of allowing you to do business. And there are a lot of platforms out there now that allows you to do e-commerce in terms of your business model. So Just choose one in terms of what works for you within the necessary resource that you have access to. And just use it in terms of how you receive your money, how you make your money. All right. Any questions? I know it's a mouthful I'm giving you tonight. So I don't know if you have questions or if you're going to wait for them in terms of the questions and answer session that we will have at the end. All right. Any questions? No questions? I can move on. Can I move on? I need feedback from you. Can I move on?
I don't have any questions.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Great. Great. Next. Latoya. Good. So we went through ideation. We went through business models. We're now going to how do you communicate this particular idea that you have? How do people know what you are doing? And I'm going to give you 3 tools that you can look at in terms of how do you go about developing the idea that you have and presenting it. So one such tool is the business plan, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. We have the lean canvas and we have an elevator or business pitch. Have anyone ever done an elevator or a business pitch for their businesses? Or even not for your businesses, just sitting down for fun and practicing. Anyone? No? Okay. All right. So I have a challenge for you. All right. Good. So Latoya, can we go to the next slide? Latoya, how are we doing with time? Can you just give me an update in terms of
just over 30 minutes left. You're
okay,
good on
good.
time.
All right. Good. Great. Good. So in terms of business plan, everything changes in life. And I remember having a conversation with a gentleman, and at one point he said to me, Nisha, everything is instant these days. So just like everything, the agriculture industry is also touched by that particular concept. Instant. Everything is instant. So for many years, we have been hearing about business plans. If you need to know how you need to get from the one stage to the next stage, you need to get a plan done. Financial institutions, lending institutions, grants, everybody wants or wanted business plans. So that is what everybody was paying attention to. But over the years, just like everything else, changes have been made to business plan to make it more easier to understand and also to make it more instant, for a better word, in terms of how we present our ideas and what we want to do and for how we use it as a guide for direction. The business plan normally, for give and take, looks at these things. Executive summary. It's there first, but here what? It's what you're supposed to do last. Because with the executive summary, when I read the executive summary, I should have a clear understanding and idea as to what your idea is. And I would advise that what you do is that you find that point that you want to bring over from the different components of the plan, and you put it within your executive summary and you tell a story. So when you're looking at the executive summary, you write it last because then you will not have those points that you wanted to put that you have in the other components as yet, because you yet to write those. Okay, so let's just put the executive summary aside. We're going to talk about the company description, which is another area. Persons just rush this particular area, and I always say to persons who I do plans for, here is where you get to sell your company. So you cannot rush it. You have to try as much as possible to tell that particular story of your company. So talk about your existence. Talk about you, why you started the company. What's the benefit of your company? Talk about your goals. Talk about your vision, what your aspirations are. Talk about how you plan to get these aspirations. operations. Talk about your goals, your objective. Talk about your milestones. About, when I say milestones, when you want to do what time span, who you want to get them, who you want to do them. You know, tell the story. Talk about it as if you are relating it to someone, or if you're relating it to yourself. All right? Don't rush it. Sometimes I just see plans with just, okay, so these are my goals, and nothing basically mix or not mix, not mix, not do what I want to use here. Nothing actually matching. Nothing is together. It's just, you just take the thoughts and you put them down there. But you have to remember that it's a lot of business plan goes to financial institution and to grants and all of that. And those that selected are the ones that actually tell the story the best. All right, good. So then we talk about products and services. Now, when we talk about products and services, I see plans where people just say to me, I am doing ham. Okay. In today's world, there are many forms of ham. The process of adding value to ham is so wide now. Technology has touched that particular area. So you have fish, you have chicken, you have pork, you have this, you have that. So when you're talking about your products, describe. You don't have to tell the intimate details in terms of, oh, I do this, I add this, but tell the story in such a way that if I'm going to buy the product without actually seeing it, I want to. So that is what you put here for your products and also for your services. Don't just put that I do transportation. Hey, say I do transportation for agriculture purposes. So I move your goods from point A to point B on time, da 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 da. So talk about the service. What is it you do? Because I'm not seeing it. I don't know what you're offering. All right, I'm just reading your document. So you need to put it there. Your marketing plan. Here what? Here is where you basically say how you're going to make your money. So you talk about, in terms of your marketing plan, you talk about your general industry. What's Shafika, I think you might probably need to mute your mic. Just move over your mic. Okay, great, good. So in terms of your marketing plan, here is where you look. This is where you sit down and you ask yourself, what do I want and how am I going to make money? And in terms of how am I going to make money, how I'm going to go about doing it, and the things that I need to do to make money. So you talk about, you look at the problem that is available or the problem that is there. So for you to look at the problem, it means that you have to look at your market, your market itself. What's going on in this particular market? What's going on in the industry? Analyze it. Say how much. You remember we talk about conducting the market research, then you go back to your portals and you talk about how much suppliers are there, and you talk about their strength. You talk about the buyers, and when you're talking about the buyers, you're talking about your target segment, what their demographics are, how often do they buy, what their income is, what their age are. So here is where you say, this is how I am going to make money. Because at the end of the day, once you have somebody that is going to do a good plan for you, whatever you put up in that marketing plan is what most of the time you see in your financials. So you have to make sure that you put it down. And don't you go there, you know, in your marketing plan is where you're going to be talking about your sales forecast and all these things. So take your time and understand your marketing plan and do it. Okay, what you are doing, because you know best what you're doing. Nobody else can know that for you. Then you have the operational plan. This is how I operate. So I open between this and this. I want this amount of staff with this a certain amount of qualification. This is how I intend to pay them and stuff like that. These are our procedures in terms of how we plan to meet the market, in terms of how we plan to our different revenue streams, in terms of how we plan to deliver the products. So basically how the business operates, that's where your business model comes in terms of your operational plan. Then we have management and organization. Basically, you outline your staff. You also say what they are, what their qualifications are, in terms of what they're bringing to the business and things like that, how much years experience they have in a particular area and all of that. So here is where you sell your staff. Here is where you sell the personnel in your staff. Because at the end of the day, and if I'm lending you money, I need to make sure that you have a team. And that's the next thing. We don't like to work in teams, and we need to start to learn to love to work in teams. Utilize one another's strength. Bring your own strength and play on others' strength to actually get the business to grow. So financial institutions look at how strong your team is in terms of management of funds or management of organizations. That's absolutely important in terms of how persons assess plans. Then exit strategy. A lot of us don't look at this. We call it the contingency plan. If anything to happen, how do we exit? What is our business continuity plan? Then that's the next thing. We don't like to share information. We don't like to bring others in. But a business, if you die, God forbid, tomorrow, you get sick, the business must continue. And for the business to continue, then it means you need to have a business continuity plan or a strategy in terms of how the business goes forward and how the business continue to grow. Look at that. Secret Gives died. Singer died. They're all here with us still. P.H. Vera just left us. Their businesses are all here with us still, because they understood the importance of having a business continuity plan. All right, so we can learn from them. Then the brilliant financial plan. Now, in the financial plan, there are a couple of things that you need to bear in mind in terms of what you need to present. And this is where your record keeping comes into play. If you don't have this, what we tend to do is we tend to do what we call a form of information. And we either take it from sitting down with you and looking at what you do on a regular. We look at what you outlined in your plans that you're going to do. And we also look at what the industry is doing. So when you look at your marketing plan and you give basically analysis of what is happening in the industry, if you don't have actual records, somebody who is generating your different financial statements, and when you're doing a business plan, there are basically three main financial statements that you need to put into your financial plan, which is your income statement, which shows your profit and your loss. Then there is your balance sheet, which basically gives you an idea of how healthy your business is in terms of liabilities. And I say liabilities, what you owe, and also assets, what you own or what persons have for you, right? And then, of course, there is your cash flow, which basically outlines how money comes into the business at given points and how money goes out of the business at given points. So, and they're all within a context or a period of time. So it can be for a year, or it can be for 3 to 5 years if you're doing a business plan. But normally, when you do financial plans and you do financial statements, they're normally for about a year, six months to a year. And then when we talk about the appendices here now, we're talking about if you want to put in pictures, if you want to put in things that you did before, if you want to put in references, if you want to put in probably contracts that you have. The idea with the business plan is that at the end of the day, if you're asking for finance, you want to access that finance. All right? Mudful, a lot of things to do. We should ask startup what financial info can we provide. As I said, Risha, if you do not have actual records, there are a couple of things that your accountant or a couple of things that your whoever is doing your plan for you can use in terms of generating your financial information. They can actually look at your day-to-day operations in terms of what you do on a daily, so they can have a conversation with you to actually ascertain how money go, what are your revenue streams, what business model you work on, and stuff like that. Or they can use the industry information, because every industry that you operate in have historical data. And you can use that and look at what is happening in the industry in terms of trends, in terms of demand, and they can generate financial information. So for persons who have startup and actually don't have thing, what we tend to do, we do pro forma information, financial. So we look ahead using information that you probably have or that is available in the industry, historical data. So I hope that answered your question, Risha. Any other clarity? You can just drop it in the chat. Need for clarity, you can just drop it in the chat and let me see how we can help. Good. So that's the business plan. I know you probably have a lot of questions on that. So just drop them down in your portfolio, and then we can always see how best we can answer them. All right. Great. Latoya, next slide. Good. Some other things that I want you to consider in terms of the business plan and business development. And I mentioned them are milestones. When we talk about milestones, is basically things that you want to achieve. So if I said to you, I have a 5-year vision plan, year 1, what is it I want to do? So I use that particular milestone to say year 1, this is what happened, and this is I look back at it and measure in terms of what I did in terms of performance. Business name selection, please, when you're looking at the name that you want to select for your business or what you want to give to your product or your service, please make it something that can stick in your particular segment's mind. The persons that you have chosen to be the buyers or your customers or consumers of whatever you are producing, please allow it to be a name that says what you are doing, and also something that stays within the minds of your buyers, your customers, or your consumers. Location. I can't say enough about that. That's key. I'm learning that in my business, where my business is so far that there are certain things that I just cannot do. That is why I have to do a B2B model. In a lot of things, you need traffic. So if by chance your market is that you're a vendor and you're going to market, you need traffic, and you can generate this traffic in many ways. So just be careful in where you're located when you are doing your service. If you're deciding to go this service way. Staff, very important. We spoke about it in terms of management and operation. Make sure that the staff buys into your culture. I have some old persons working, as I said to you, they retired, and that in itself I had made plans for before. So you have to make sure that the persons that you're looking for actually have the qualification and have the drive that you have. If not, you just say no. Simple. Or if you want, you could actually, if they are open to training, you can bring them in and you can train them to come up to speed with where you want your particular business to go and the staff that you're looking for. Pay attention to what is happening to the industry at all times. Always remember, always pay attention to what is happening in your particular industry. Your trader's license, that I believe is at the financial complex, I think, that you can get your trader's license. But in our context, we use our farmer's registration. And I think, yeah, I use my farmer's registration. What is the cost for trader's license? Let me just finish this slide and then I think I'll answer that. Business registration. As I said, I'm working to, it's a part of my 5-year goal. I'm working towards it in getting the business registered. And I'm not talking about the farmer's registration here. I'm talking about actually going to SIPO, which is the Commercial Intellectual Property Office. They do most registration for businesses, for groups, for organizations. So you go there and you do your necessary registration, right? Organization registration, if you belong to different organizations, they would have their policies in terms of how you go about registration. Now, social security is one of my topics that I always like to talk about in my sessions. I know we're running out of time, but I just want to briefly touch on it. The average age for farmers is going up, and it keeps going up. And we cannot go to the land every day of our lives. There is going to come a point in our lives when we just cannot go. So we need to start to put the plan in place now for when we cannot go. So social security is one of the ways that our government have in terms of policies, how you can actually pay and get something for your later years. And of course, there are pension plans and all these things that you can look at. Please give some thought to what is going to happen to your twilight years. All right, in terms of your 5-year plan. And I mentioned business name already. So those are some other things that I want you to answer. To answer Veltina's question as it pertains to cost of trader's license, what happens there is that you go to the department that deals with trader's license in the financial complex, and what they do, they normally send out officers to do assessment. And when the officer comes and the officer does assessment, then that is when you will know how much you have to pay at the end of the year. All right. Somebody had asked, how can we protect intellectual property in our business plans or pitch decks? Unfortunately, some persons, I know of those negative experiences in terms of your intellectual property in your business plans. Again, you have to be careful. You have to know who to trust with this. And if you actually fall within that negative process, you need to notify the necessary authorities that it was done. All right. That's basically how it is right now within our particular industry in terms of intellectual property for now. I think SIPO is SIPO International Intellectual Property Day. I think is coming up. I can't remember if it's sometime in November. I'm looking forward to see what they have as it pertains to that. I could, however, do some research for you on that, Risha, and then I'll get back to you next class, next session on what SIPO's plans are in terms of for that. Okay. All right. Good. Latoya, how am I on time and the number of slides that I have leave?
Okay, you have 4 minutes, sorry. You have 30 minutes left. And you have an additional
2 slides?
1, 2, 3.
Okay, good.
Technically 4. 3 to 4. So I'll say you're good.
All right. Great. All right. So next slide, please. Thank you. Good. So this is the lean canvas, and I have 13 minutes. So I have to see how best I can break this down for you. So the lean canvas is another way of sharing your idea or communicating your idea. And this is what I would call so Ronita is saying that someone has their hands up. I'm not seeing the chat.
Yes, I had a question. Do you have time just to take a short question in regards to what you were talking about?
Sure. Yes, please. Go right ahead.
Right. So I know that you spoke about SIPO and registration, but in terms of trademarking for small businesses in St. Vincent, do you have any idea like where we have to go through one process? No?
No, I know the process, but I know it's going to be very expensive for you. Trademarking is a process, right? And it's very intensive, and it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. So I don't most small businesses in St. Vincent will not be able to do trademarks. It's very expensive. How much is a lot? Is a lot. You have to have a whole legal team in place to get it done. It's not an easy process because it's a lot of things you have to cover. You have to cover your geographical location. You have to make sure that nobody else have this particular trademark and all these things. So it's not one of the easy. Joylyn is saying minimum $900. That's minimum. True, but it takes a lot of time too. So I don't know if you have that kind of resource as a small business to actually tie that up in this particular thing. I don't think we do. You have to touch SIPO. You're gonna have to do some research at SIPO with this particular one, because I don't see a lot of trademarks here in St. Vincent. But look, Joylyn is giving information. You can check Phillips and Williams. They specialize in trademarks. I also know that Fredericks, I think Vinette Fredericks law firm, I think they also do a bit of that as well. So yeah, you're getting some information there. I hope it helped.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So what are trademarks? Let me see how I could simplify that for you. And using an example. One is in my mind right now. So basically, when you do trademarks, it means that this particular mark is yours as a company. You own it. So if anybody else use it or anything, they have to pay you. So for example, there is one that I'm thinking about that is on my mind right now that I am trying to remember. Oh, off the top of my mind. Bettina, can I get back to you in terms of that next class? Because we're running out of time, and yeah, it's copywriting, yes, but it's different in its own way as it pertains to patents and copywriting and stuff like that. It's a whole long process. So I just want to make sure that when I inform Bettina, I give her the correct information. I just don't want to talk off the top of my head right now. Okay. Good. So in terms of Lean Canvas, Lean Canvas has nine components, and basically it's the instant to the business plan. So what you do with the Lean Canvas is that you do the same thing, but you don't put all the information that you would put in the business plan. You see, when we were talking about the executive summary, you see all the major points that I said to you, you wanted to mention in the components of the different aspects of the business plan, and you just bring it up into the executive summary and tell a story. This is what you do with the Lean Canvas. So the different sections are problems. So what three things are you doing? What three needs are you meeting with whatever product or service that you're putting in place? Right? And then when you talk about the next step would be, who exactly would you want to sell to? So that is something you need to think about. You need to break it down. So in my case, I've broken down my segment into businesses, and then I've broken it down a little bit further into just persons who do retail. So you need to just work out, sit down and think, who do I really want to buy my products? And you can go even further in terms of how you segment them in terms of your target customers. Then you talk about your unique value proposition. And when I say unique value proposition, this has nothing to do with your competition. This has everything to do with your customers. So how do your customers perceive what you are offering them? What value do they gain? from using your product in terms of using, let's say in terms of using your machine. You probably might probably be doing it naturally. All right. So the value that they get would be that here what I would remain healthy for the next year or so using buying stuff from Nisha, because Nisha don't use a lot of chemicals. Nisha don't do this. Nisha deliver on time. Nisha stores my stuff in the right temperature and stuff like that. So when you talk about the unique value proposition, it's based on how your customer perceive what you are offering them. Then we talk about the features. So remember, we talk about the product and service profile. Here is where you get an opportunity to talk about what you are actually doing. What product are you producing? So if you are doing poultry, it could probably be that you're doing eggs. If not, it could probably be that you are doing meat. If you're probably doing pepper sauce, if you're doing jams, if you're doing wines, if you're doing juices, if you're just producing seasoning in the raw form, and things like that. So you talk about the features of your product. Then we talk about the unfair advantage. Unfair advantage is just basically your what we call competitive edge. And here now is where you talk about your competition. It's not so much your customers. This particular section deals with your competition. What you are doing that they cannot copy, or what you are doing that's better than what they are doing. So it could probably be your delivery time. It could probably be the fact that you network and you develop relationship with your buyers, or you develop relationship with your customers, or you choose to not just do business from the standpoint of meeting your customers at the farm, but then you now have a WhatsApp business account where you can communicate, or on social media. So find that thing that you're doing that cannot be copied by your competition. So this area all looks at your competition. Then we talk about your revenue streams. We mentioned the fact you use your B2B to decide how you actually get money. And I remember we talking about in last session the different ways that you can look at a product or a service and find different revenue streams to get money. The idea is to be innovative and savvy, so that you take one product or you take one service and you get 2 or 3 revenue streams from it. Your cost structure. Now with the cost structure, a lot of persons tend not to really look at their true cost. So then you have your fixed cost and you have your variable cost. Those fixed costs are those things that you have to cover whether you do production, yes or no. For example, I use my vehicle for farming. Whether my vehicle up or not, whether I use it for production, yes or no, I have to pay the government license for it. So the farm pays that because the vehicle is actually responsible for transportation from the farm. Again, as I said, the distance my farm is from where I am, from my market, produce all those additional costs for me. So you have to look at your cost structure. Every single aspect of where money leaves the business, where you have to give it out, you need to jot it down. So that is what you look at in terms of cost structure. And key metrics, we spoke about in terms of business planning. We spoke about how do we measure progress. Here is where you put in the different things to say here what business is doing well or business is not doing well. For example, in my context, I would say in terms of business plan, so I normally do planning the ending of December, probably the first week in January, because I wait on certain information to come in to me. And as soon as I get them, then I start the decision, then I start the business planning. I might probably say at the ending of the year, I want to do 5 cabbage fields, right? Then now, that is what I would use to at the end of the year to see whether I actually did get a chance to do those 5 and decide how business was for that particular year. Because at the start, I would have put down 5 cabbage fields and how much it was going to cost me and the revenue stream that I was expecting. So little things like that you can put in terms of how do you measure. It can also be how much orders that you get. So you have your WhatsApp business account set up, and you can measure how much orders actually comes to that particular platform, and then in terms of also how much additional clients, how much additional persons did you get in terms of using that particular platform. So couple things that you can put in there for how your business actually goes. Then we have 9, which is part to customers, and this is the one that you need to manage. Is what we call the distribution channels. You would have mentioned it in your marketing plan if you were doing a business plan. So how do I get to my customers and how do my customers get to me? It's a two-way thing. It's not just one way how you get to your customers. So as I say, I have a farmer friend that does not leave his farm. So his customers actually come to his farm. But in my case, I utilize e-commerce. So I utilize my WhatsApp account. I also utilize my marketing strategy because I have somebody who does marketing for me. So that is something. Ladies, I've gone over my time. So just give me 2 minutes. Let me wrap up. Let me wrap up, okay? So this is the lean canvas. So I would give you an opportunity to look at it a little further down. All right, good. Latoya?
Yes.
This is probably my second to last slide, right? The next slide.
Yep.
All right,
Well,
so can I see? Yep. Ladies, just give me 2-3 minutes to wrap up. And I don't know if Fiona is on. We just want to give her opportunity. And I apologize again for going over tonight's session. Good. Latoya, next slide is good. So I just want to briefly mention the elevator pitch. So with the elevator pitch, this is an opportunity for you to actually talk about your business. You know, we have talked about the fact that if you meet Bill Gates or one of these famous persons within an elevator, elevators are normally 18 seconds, people, but we have drafted it to make it 60 seconds. So how do you sell your particular business in 1 minute or in 60 seconds? So the elevator pitch or business pitch, which is what we do now, a lot of what we do now is business pitch because it goes a little longer than 60 seconds, is an opportunity that you can tell somebody about what you're doing. So I just wanted to, you need to be prepared, begin with a conversation, make sure, basically, what you need to do is just utilize your lean canvas. If you can manage to draft your lean canvas, you can use this particular tool and do an elevator pitch. Practice, 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 practice. And at the end of it, make sure you close with a call of action. So I may be contacted via this, or here what? Visit my company's social media page, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Depends on where your target market is, where you meet your people, where your channels say that you meet your people and your people meet you. Send them there. All right. So that's briefly an elevator pitch. When you're doing pitches, you can use your lean canvas since it's a one glance as to what you're doing and sell yourself. You could even use it and if you want to practice speaking about yourself, you can use it as well. All right. So that's the elevator pitch. And I believe my last slide, Latoya. Oh, Latoya, can we go back to the right? So I want to give you another challenge. And if anyone wants to share next session, right? I want to issue a challenge. Create a lean canvas or elevator pitch of your business idea and share it with us next session. I have some slides already prepared for next session. I want to take out some stuff so that I give you opportunity to do, because I gave you another challenge before And now you have this one. Create a lean canvas on elevator pitch of your business idea, and then you would share next session. Do I have a thumbs up to that? Anybody willing to do it? You would have some time before our next session to actually look at both challenges. So can I have a thumbs up that at least you would attempt? Ladies, are you with me? Okay, I think they would attempt, Latoya. So in the last slide.
Yes.
Okay, good. Nice, Phyllis. Thank you. So my tip for tonight is chart your path to business success with well-defined goals. Thanks, Jan. Setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible, and this is by Tony Robbins. So I want you to chart your path to business success with well-defined goals. Please work on your goals. Have a vision. Don't just exist. Have a vision. So I have a homework there for you, but I give you additional homework or challenge for next session. Fiona was with us. Ladies, let me say thank you. I know that I went over my time, so let me say thank you for staying and for being patient. I know I gave you a mouthful tonight, and you can also remember to walk with your questions if you have any in the next session. So thank you again. Fiona is with us. Latoya?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. So Fiona, I just want to give you this couple seconds. Ladies, please just give Fiona a couple seconds. Thank you.
Okay, good night, everyone. I am really beat from today. I must say, I'm come rushing home to the class. So I was to do a presentation on what we did in the last class. So basically, this is what I have from the notes that I made and stuff. So agribusiness for me is basically finding out what the product is, or what you want to grow, or what the customers want. Finding out what the customers want and then basically growing it. Agribusiness includes farming, production, marketing, management of agricultural commodities. When we go to investments and expansion, basically you're supposed to invest back the money that you would have made from the business back into the business in order for it to grow. The business is also supposed to help to create employment for others. You know, you must always try to impact the community while doing the business. For example, youth involvement, trying to reduce poverty by food security. Then we have things that may affect the business, for example, climate change impact. So you should always find out ahead of time what the climate is going to be like, so you know what exactly you're growing, how you go about growing these crops. Hold on. I had this so well put together.
You're very Fiona. You're doing well. You're doing well. Go ahead.
I'm just really tired. I had almost 300.
So here what? We already over time, right?
Yes.
I am going to have to be very savvy in next session so that I give you an opportunity to actually put your best foot forward. All right? So when you want to finish?
No, it's okay because my voice is also kind of
going and coming. Okay. All right. So let me see how innovative or how creative I could be in terms of making of the information that I want to share in the next session as short as possible, so that I give you some time to actually put your, because this is what it's all about. Huh? developing you as individuals. So what I would do, I would see how best I could work the slides and get the information that I want to share so that everybody gets an opportunity to learn and to put their best forward. So Fiona, thank you for attempting. I know we have these kind of days. I had a very long day as well, but thank you for at least attempting, and I will give you 2 minutes in the next session to actually present what you wanted to present. All right, along with Angeline, because Angeline also was not able to present today. I also have to do some work for Veltina in terms of intellectual trademarks. I'm just running through what I have to do for next session. So thank you very much, ladies. Thank you, Fiona, for at least attempting. I welcome that. And Latoya, I don't know if you have anything to end off. I think you would get the two quiz. You would get the quiz from Latoya. She would send them to you. Right, Latoya, in the chat? Or
via the chat.
Good, so Latoya. So again, ladies, thank you very much. My apologies for going over. I hope that you at least learned something. It was a mouthful tonight. And thank you again. See you next session, God's willing, on Tuesday. Do have a great weekend, and also the next and the rest of the night. Thank you.